Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite products, newer to me products that I've been using a ton this summer to really help me get that like summertime glow, clean, fresh look. So I'm wearing all the products, well not all of them, but anything that I talk about, I'm wearing some of it on my face today and I will demo all of it pretty much. So if you want to see a bunch of the products I've been loving for this summer, then just keep watching. Okay, so we're gonna start out with our base products. Obviously, that's step one of doing your makeup. And I have been really into glowy primers and sunscreens and stuff this summer. So the first base I wanna talk about is the L'Oreal Lumi Glotion. I think this is having like a resurgence on social media. This has been available for a while, but it's just become very popular again. So I have this shade 902 Light Glow. So that is what I used on this side of my face. So I'm going to demo putting it on. And it definitely has more of that kind of a pink undertone to it as opposed to like a pearlescent one, if that makes sense. I mean, it's definitely still glowy and shiny, but it's got more of that pink undertone than like a white or silver. Then on the other side of my face, I used the e.l.f. Halo Liquid Glow. And I have this in the shade 3, I think. Yeah, shade 3. I probably could have gone one shade lighter on this at the time, but since then they've expanded their shade range, so I bought this when it very first came out. So that is what I'm wearing on the other side of my face. And this, while it is glowy, I feel like it's definitely not as glowy as the Lumi Glotion, which you can see here. But it does still provide that nice base, and I do feel like it kind of helps to even out some of the texture and like the skin coloring to kind of prep your face for your foundation. So if you wanted to use something that also had an SPF in it that still provided that glow, I have 2 SPF sunscreens. I'm not wearing either of these today because I'm not planning on spending time outside, but one that I've been loving is the Naturium Dew Glow Moisturizer. It has an SPF of 50, which I love, and it does look just like a regular sunscreen. And again, it's not going to be a huge amount of glow per se, not as much as like that Lumi Glotion, but it does provide some glow and that SPF coverage. So that I wear a lot of times, and even though this is a little pricey, I think this is around, well, I don't say, I'll put the price in the bottom of the screen. It's a little pricey, but I will say I've had this tube for a number of months at this point, and I don't use it consistently every single day, but I do reach for it a few times a week, and I feel like it's, you know, a decent amount of product for what you pay. And the other one, I just have a mini version of it right now. I have the e.l.f. Whoa Glow sunscreen, the mini version, and I have it, I don't know if there's different shades. This is Sunbeam, and this has SPF 30. And this is supposed to be a dupe, I think, for the Supergoop Glow Screen, which I have owned that in the past and used it, but I don't think I'll repurchase that one just because of the price point. And then this is basically a dupe for that. So again, not going to be as glowy as the other 2 glow products, but it at least provides some SPF coverage as well. So that's something to consider when choosing these products, and something that I think about when I'm doing my makeup for the day, whether I'm going to be outside a lot of the time or not. Next, let's move on to foundation. And the 2 foundations that I'm going to demo today are currently in my everyday makeup drawer. And I put them there for this exact reason, because I know that I love using them in the summertime. The first is my L'Oreal True Matte Hyaluronic Acid Foundation. And I have this in the shade 1 to 2.5. I don't, you know, that's just what it is. So this is actually almost gone. It's been on its side, so you can't tell, but actually the product is like about here. So coming to the end of this, but I'm wearing that on this side of my face, I think. And this is definitely kind of a lighter, thinner formula, but I still feel like it provides pretty decent coverage. I would say this provides light to like a light medium coverage, which you can see here as I'm applying it. It's also a pretty good shade match for me right now, and I feel like even if I get slightly more tan this summer, I still will be able to use it because of how light it is. Then on the other side of my face, I used the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk, and I have this in the shade 530 Fair Light. And I would say this one is a thicker formula than that L'Oreal one. Not anything like cakey though. And I do think the first application of it will provide you with a little bit more coverage than the L'Oreal one. So I would say this is more of a light to medium coverage. Definitely buildable. You can get more of that medium coverage if you add a second layer. I really like both of these. I kind of switch back and forth on a day-to-day basis depending on what I'm feeling like or what my skin concerns are. If I feel like I need more coverage, I've been having a lot of breakouts and like scarring from my breakouts recently. So like I have been using the CoverGirl one a little bit more recently. But I also wanted to offer another option. Those are both drugstore, and a slightly higher end one that I have that I also love, mostly for those days when you want super light coverage. You really are just trying to even out your skin tone, is the Glossier Perfecting Skin Tint. Again, super, super light. I think this is the shade G11. I shake mine. And then I like the style of it too. It's just like a little dropper bottle. And it's just a very, you'll see, it's a very thin consistency. But like I said, it's nice to just add, to have that little layer of, as it says, perfecting tint on your skin to just kind of even out some of your skin tone. Adds a slight bit of glow, as you can see. So those are 3 of the foundation or skin tint type items that I have been loving this summer. Before we move on to bronzer and blush, I won't spend a lot of time on concealer because I have talked this concealer to death many, many times in previous videos. It is the Maybelline Superstay Activewear Concealer. This is still the best concealer I have found for me. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but the color match is great. The staying power is great. It blends in really easily for me, and I just love it. So that's all I need to say about that this time. Like I said, talked about it a million times before. But now for bronzer and blush. You know, it depends, but most days in the summer, I'm wanting to use a cream formula. I do have some powder options for the days when, you know, like I said, if you're really wanting to like set and lock things in with the powder, I have those on hand, but most days I'm using a cream formula. So let's start with bronzer. So on this side of my face, I used the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer, and then on the other side, I used the Tarte Cream Bronzer. And the e.l.f. bronzer is in the shade Tan Lines. So I'm applying that here, and this is relatively new to me. I believe I demoed this in another video a couple weeks ago, and that was kind of around when I had first purchased it. And I just really think that this is a great, inexpensive cream bronzer. It brings the color and the pigment without being too over the top, and I do feel like it just blends in so nicely and easily. It doesn't seem to interact or mess up the foundation that's underneath it all, which is also important. So then on the other side of my face, I have the Tarte Cream Bronzer in Breezy. I don't even know if they make this anymore, but I liked this line. The like Tarte stuff in the blue packaging, the like sea mineral or whatever line it was. And this one I definitely would say, when I compare the two, I think that they're relatively close in like color shade, but I would say maybe the e.l.f. one is a little bit more brown and the Tarte one is a tiny bit more orange. But regardless, I love them both. And my e.l.f. one, or the Tarte one, I've had in my collection for a long time, so it is something that I am thinking about potentially adding to my project pan very soon. But you can see they're both blended in nicely and work well. Another cream bronzer that I love that I didn't feel the need to demo because I've used it many times in past videos is the Makeup Revolution cream bronzer. I have it in the light shade. This is super affordable. I think this is $8 or $9. You get a ton of product. Again, this is definitely up there as one of the best cream bronzers that I have in my collection. Now, if we move on to blush cream products, same thing on this side of my face. I'm using the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Blush, and I have this one in the shade Isla del Sol, and it's very bright, but that's kind of the vibe that I've been in this summer. So then on the other side of my face, I have the Tower 28 blush in Happy Hour. So the e.l.f. one, it goes on pretty much the same as the bronzer did. Blends out pretty nicely, adds that pigment without being too crazy, even though in the pan the color looks a little scary. And then when we go to the other side of the face and use the Tower 28, I've used this a ton this summer. I just love this bright pink color. Again, also super nice formula, really enjoying it. Blends in nicely, and again, same as the bronzer, neither one of these seems to interact too much with the foundation underneath. So you can see the comparison. I do feel like the e.l.f. one maybe has slightly more of that red-orange undertone, and obviously the Tower 28 is more pink and maybe a little more subtle. So it just depends what you're going for, but I really like both of these. Now, in terms of powder products, like I said, I don't reach for these a ton in the summer, but there are a few options that I do like for when I am feeling like I want that powder coverage. So for bronzer, I have the new-ish NYX Buttermelt Bronzer. I have the shade All Buttered Up. And again, I introduced this in a previous video. This one has a slight bit of glow to it, so that's something else to be aware of, but it does add that nice glow for those days that I want that, or maybe I want to put this on top of my cream bronzer to set it and really make sure that my makeup is lasting long term. And this next one I haven't reached for a ton, but you know, everything I've talked about in this video so far has pretty much been drugstore with the exception of a few items. So a higher end bronzer that I do have is the Fenty Beauty Sunstalker bronzer. I have it in shade 4 Island Ting, which is a little darker than other bronzers that I have in my collection, but I feel like later in the summer this will be really, really nice, and I do like pulling this out every now and then. Since it is a higher end bronzer, I really don't use it very often, so as you can see, like the embossing is still there, but I just really enjoy having this in my collection, and just kind of when you want to treat yourself or use some higher end glam products, it's fun to pull this out. Same with the powder blushes. I have one drugstore and one higher end. The drugstore one is the Milani Luminoso. I feel like this is a no-brainer for summer. If you want that peach flush that also has that glow to it, this is perfect. And then similarly, my higher end one that I love and I've talked about a ton as well is the Bare Minerals Bronzer in the shade Kiss of Pink. Similar concept. This is just a little more, they look very similar on the camera, but I swear this is definitely more of that peach. This is more pink, but it's still got that glow and sheen when you put it on. So love both of these as powder blush options. And last but not least, something that is kind of fun and nice to do in the summer is a really simple eye look. So I pulled back out my Hard Candy eye defining sticks. I love these. You can get these at Walmart or on the Hard Candy website, obviously, but I have the shades Cold Brew and Bubbly, and I love these. I use these all the time. And so what I do occasionally, if I'm like running late or I just need to slap on some eye makeup real quick, don't want to pull out a whole palette, I will take the Cold Brew one, put that in my crease and blend it out a little bit. Then I will take the Bubbly shade, put a little bit on my finger and just pat that on my eyelid. Then if I feel like it and I want a little more definition, I'll go back in with Cold Brew, do a little bit of like a messy liner on the upper lash, just maybe on the last half of it, and then same underneath the waterline to just add that little bit of definition. And yeah, it's not the most exciting thing, but it gets the job done. You can do it in like a minute and you still look, you know, put together. So that is that. All right, so that is everything up to mascara. And in the summertime, you know, there's occasionally a handful of times when I want a waterproof mascara. It's not often because honestly, it's a pain to get off at the end of the day. But the one I've been using for waterproof is the Maybelline Lash Discovery. It's this, and what I like about this one is it has like a really tiny brush. So I feel like it really does get into my lashes and separate. So this one is definitely on its last legs. I've had this for almost a year at this point, which I know for mascara, you're only supposed to keep them or use them for like 6 to 9 months, but I really only use this in the summertime, and I got this at the end of summer last year, so I wanted to try and make it through this summer with it as well. But what I've been wearing more on a daily basis this summer is the CoverGirl Lash Blast Clean. And then I know there's also, they've got like that Cleantopia mascara. I haven't tried that yet, but I like the same general concept. There's just something about it being like the clean, the cruelty-free version, and just like a little lighter and simpler to go with that same like simple glowy summer makeup look. So that is what we're going to wear today. So I'm going to throw on this mascara and then we'll be back to do the lips. All right, that is with the mascara on. I always feel like mascara just really brings a whole look together. It makes it look more finished and polished. Now, for lips, I'm not going to go in depth into a bunch of summer lippies. That was last week's video, so I will link that below. Go watch that to see all the summertime lip products, balms, glosses that I have been loving so far. But for today, I'm going to throw on this Tower 28 gloss in Pistachio. I like that it adds a tiny bit of color, but then also that little bit of shine as well. And then on days where I feel like maybe I'm gonna get a little too shiny or oily, I will throw on some of my CoverGirl Clean Fresh powder. I have it in, do I have it in the translucent shade? No, I have it like the lightest shade, but it's basically translucent. So a lot of times I'll just pat this like under my eyes or on like my chin and here, because that's kind of where my makeup tends to break down the most. So there's always that for the summertime if you feel like you need some powder to lock things in, or like blotting later in the day. Something like a translucent powder is always handy. And then most days I also set my makeup with the setting spray, especially if I need it to last a long time, like if I'm going to work or going to be going out all day. And I've been using the e.l.f. Power Grip spray. This I really like. This is like the finest mist out of any spray that I've used in a long time. So I've been really enjoying that, and I think this costs around $10, so it's relatively affordable as well. So that is everything for this video. I know that was a lot of products to run through, but I just wanted to share kind of things that I'm loving this summer makeup wise, especially for that like dewy, clean, fresh look. And then just what my makeup routine has kind of been like more recently, excluding my project pan items. I feel like I always talk about the same items. I'm always project panning. I'm using a lot of what's in my everyday makeup drawer most of the time, but I've kind of been delving more into some other products this summer, and I think I'm going to move a lot of these into my everyday makeup drawer on the next round. So I think that will be coming up in a few weeks, so be on the lookout for that. So if you want to see that video, any project pan updates, any of my upcoming videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Please give this video a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you all in next week's video. Bye.